film is Being There, starring Peter Sellers, and we forgot to check to see who else was in that cast.
Oh, Shirley MacLaine, Jack Warden. He played the
Jack
president.
Warden, yes.
And nobody else.
Nobody else of significance. Okay,
Yes.
my name is Paul Cummings.
Yes.
And this is Emmett Loverde, and welcome to 5 Minute Critics.
There you go. So, start us off.
I happen to think that Being There was the best work that Peter Sellers has ever done. I remember sitting in the theater and watching the movie and realizing I was going to have to see it a couple more times, not once, but probably 3 or 4 more times, because I needed to get immune to the jokes I was laughing at so I could hear the ones that I was missing. It was that funny a movie. It's the story of Chance the gardener, and it says a lot about this country and the way we view the world and the way we view our politics.
And when we were talking earlier, I was mentioning how some movies are some great works, movies, plays, books, whatever. It's almost like they're vitamin pills. Like so much thinking goes into them. And they're compacted into a little pill that maybe takes 2 hours to take, like if you're watching a movie. And then once that pill is inside your body, it's like it expands, and the ideas that went into the making of the pill, they start bubbling up in your psyche, and you remember things, and it triggers things. And I really think that Being There is one of those, where there's so many moments in the film where you just say, that makes so much sense, not just in the context of the movie, but in the context of real life. Like, for example, Chance the gardener, he's a gardener. That's what he knows.
He's a very simple man.
Yes.
He can barely tie his own shoes and dress himself, but he knows gardening. Yeah,
and at one point he's in a conversation with the President of the United States. And the President basically says, what advice do you have me? And Chance the gardener says, well, in the garden, first there is spring and summer, but then you have fall and winter. That's all he says. And the President says, oh my God, that's brilliant. And he incorporates it like a day later into a speech that he makes to the entire nation.
Yes, and that's part of the comedy of the film. And what makes Peter Sellers so great in this role is, as simple as Chance is, everything is delivered in a flat monotone. It's first you have spring and summer, then you have fall and winter. And he delivers every line in the script that way, no matter how funny, no matter how profound, how mundane, whatever you want to call it. Every line is delivered with that same cadence. And there are times when just what he's saying, with the action going on, with the other characters, with everything that's happening in that particular scene, it's wet your pants funny. It truly is.
Oh, and I use some of his lines.
Oh, absolutely. Chance comes into my life fairly frequently.
One of my favorite things is when, he's not a very bright guy, but he says to people, when they ask him something very complicated and blah, 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 this, what do you think of this? And, and he'll look at the person and he'll say, I understand. And the comfort that brings to whoever he's talking to, like, really? Oh.
Yes.
And of course he doesn't understand except on his level, which is very shallow. But I just love the effect that it has on other people. And so I'll say that to people in my own life. Mm-hmm. And they're like, whatever they're trying to tell me, and I'll look at them and I'll say, I understand. Not trying to be insincere or anything, but I get such a kick out of how much that comforts people.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like, really, you understand?
Yeah.
And they don't know that I'm quoting a movie.
About a very simple man.
Yes, I feel bad about that. I'm sorry if any of you are watching this who has been hurt by this, but when I say I understand.
Unfortunately, you can never say that again now.
No, yeah,
it's out there.
out there in the ether.
And never to go away. Yeah, one of my favorite bits is I like to watch.
I like to watch. Yes.
Shirley MacLaine is the president's wife. The president and his wife are obviously not getting along all that well as a couple.
Yes.
We'll keep this PG-13. And so in an attempt to seduce Chance, who she sees as this genius who's come in to help save her husband's campaign for re-election, she asks him what he likes, and his response is, "I like to watch," as he's staring at a television set. So as she begins this elaborate seduction,
It's like a fan dance.
he's turning his head from side to side, not looking at her at all. She's lost in her own performance as he's trying to look around her and continue to watch the television. And I've done it no justice in describing it because it is laugh out loud funny. It is milk squirting from your nose funny. It is comedy genius. And I remember thinking to myself, I had just gotten out of college, and I'm thinking to myself, as an actor, how do you do that? How could you possibly get through that scene?
Oh, think of, dogs, puppies being hurt, and, anything to keep you from laughing.
And the thing that occurs to me now is I realized by the end of the film, when they showed some outtakes of a couple of the scenes, several of the funnier scenes, including the one I just mentioned, Sellers did not keep it together. There were several takes. I think on one of the clappers I noticed the number 171. And it wasn't a scene.
Oh, it was the take?
It was the take.
Wow, okay.
So obviously several people on the crew, the cast, Sellers himself, they had difficulty with some of these scenes, and now it makes sense, but it's sheer comic genius.
Yes, I think you will have difficulty with this film in a good way.
Yes. It's a must-watch at least 3 or 4 times, so that you make sure you get every nuance. And we won't spoil the ending, but what's the line from the first Superman movie? You will believe, a man can fly.
Yes.
You will believe a man can walk on water.
Walk on water.